Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm Lee Hutchison.
And welcome to the Senate floor.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this next edition of the Filibuster on the Senate floor. We are going to be talking about something that Lee has wanted to talk about for a while, and I think it's the right time given that we've reached August. We're going to be talking about the summer movie season of 2016, the highlights, the lowlights, and what we hope for next year. In addition to talking about what's probably going to be the last big release of summer, which was Suicide Squad last Friday.
Yeah, that's not just a nickname for the Nerd Party. That's the Warner Brothers DC's latest movie. Obviously, I'm still in shock that Matt Hansen actually went to see Suicide Squad. You know, the biggest Marvel fanboy. I don't think you've even seen Batman v Superman. Is that correct?
No, because I had moral objections to giving Zack Snyder my money.
Ooh, the shade. So Matt saw Suicide Squad last night. So before we start our kind of season review, Matt, what did you think of Suicide Squad?
I'll put it to you this way. I listened to your recommendations after you saw it. I listened to Tristan and the girls' recommendations after they saw it, and they were DC fans, and yet I still went to go see it. So that should tell you something.
Glad for punishment.
It's a mess. That movie has no idea what it wants to be, and I feel, you know, you cannot help but feel the overwhelming specter of studio interference when you watch that film. I think that, and obviously we'll go into more detail, I think it's a film that had potential. Unlike Batman v Superman, I think the film had potential, and I see a kernel of it, a good idea somewhere within its cast, but wow. I mean, I hate to sound like a biased Marvel fanboy again, but it's like, this thing wants to be Guardians of the Galaxy so bad and has no idea what makes that movie unique and special.
Yeah, it reminded me that we all remember that there was always kind of ties that this could be the Guardians of the Galaxy of the DC universe, and
they certainly were going for that in the previews, weren't they? I mean, those previews came out and everyone was praising them, and I'm just like, does no one remember the Guardians preview?
Yeah, and for me, the one thing that I was reminded of, that this was similar to Star Trek Beyond, that people were saying, you know what, this movie is going to be kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. And me and you were like, actually, I think what they're trying to get for is maybe a bit of a kind of an inspiration, a tone idea, as opposed to being a kind of direct rip-off. And I feel that's kind of what Suicide Squad was going for. I mean, it's been about a week now since I endured Suicide Squad, and, you know, I definitely, for me, it's, you know, easily the worst movie of the summer.
See, that's what makes me surprised. Well, it surprised me that you actually are of the mind that it's worse than Batman v Superman.
Yeah, like, obviously we podcasted before that I think Batman v Superman was atrocious. In retrospect, compared to this, it's much better, but that's damning with faint praise. You know, I'm a Batman fanboy, and this summer I've been given like 2 Batman movies. Well, one Batman movie and one kind of fraction Batman movie, and both have left me really frustrated. That kind of coming now to this part of the year where I'm reflecting back on the DCU and where it's coming along, I'd kind of rank it Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, then Suicide Squad. And, you know, I've always felt from the beginning that there was issues that I saw almost straight away with Suicide Squad that kind of made me a bit hesitant about getting hyped up for it. I just was a bit concerned by some of the trailers, the tone, the casting, and images I was seeing. The Jared Leto stuff kind of annoyed me the whole way through.
That really pissed me off, and I have to say, the fact that all the pre-release hype was focusing on, what we put these actors through rather than the story itself, I think that was telling, because there is when you look at this movie, there is no story. It's one of the most simplistic stories that you could put to paper.
Yeah, like, what I thought I would hope for the movie, and I thought nice and early doors, was that this was going to be like a kind of a small-time movie where it was going to be really focused on something manageable, something that only bad guys could do. And I mean, the fact that it ended up with the typical superhero blue light in the sky thing just was really disappointing. And even when the embargo broke, I was a bit surprised at how savage it was. That's not to say I don't agree with it, but I was a bit surprised. I thought, I didn't think it would be that great. I thought it would be mediocre, okay at best, but still.
I thought I thought at worst it might be like the Man of Steel scores, which were something like 56%. The fact that I think it's actually rated worse than Batman v Superman now is surprising.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it to go that way, and I didn't expect for me, personally, to rank it so low. That, you mentioned the Rotten Tomatoes there, and since this kind of the embargo broke and everything, it's been the usual. It was almost like our podcast a few weeks ago with me, you, and Tristan almost predicted this kind of response of Rotten Tomatoes and fights among fans and all these things, and this whole Rotten Tomatoes thing is ridiculous. Silly. That I don't like Suicide Squad. I mean, I'm a Batman fanboy. That is my bread and butter. I like some of the Marvel movies. I enjoy going to see them at the cinema. Some of the Batman movies are my all-time favorite comic book movies and movies. And I'm not a DC hater. I want to see a successful Batman. I want to see the DC universe succeed, and it's not been the case. And the issue I kind of almost have at points really is with the I'm not going to settle for this. This is I want a good Batman movie. I want a good DC movie, and I've yet to be given that. I've been given good moments and some good beats, but I've not been given a good moment. And when I see kind of people criticizing the response to this movie, that critics haven't liked it. Why are people being so brutal in their tweets?
Well, the thing that I keep saying that frustrates me, and what it does? It reminds me of Transformers. Whenever a Transformers movie comes out, the response I've seen from fans who liked it is, "What did you expect? It's just a Suicide Squad movie." And I'm just shouldn't we want more than that in the day and age of? I hate to keep comparing it to Marvel, but even when they make a fun quote unquote movie that's not supposed to be substantial or anything, we get Guardians of the Galaxy, we get even Ant-Man. I think was a solid fun time.
Yeah, and I think it's we have to demand more, because when you see this, it still baffles me that this movie needs to make 800 million, whether you take that claim from Warner Brothers seriously or not. Any movie that has to make 800 million should be treated as something of high standard, that's got to hit that total. We can't just teach it with kid gloves. This is demanding fans, people to go through the doors. And Suicide Squad really is, we're going to get into that in a bit, is symptomatic of this summer. These ridiculous budgets that aren't getting made back, these over-the-top movies that are failing to connect, repetitive sequels. And Suicide Squad is the worst movie of the summer for me, and I expected better. I demanded better. I love Training Day. I know Fury split people, but I thought it was excellent, and I was so on board after Fury. I was
no, Fury was good. I really liked Fury, but unfortunately, this wasn't Fury David Ayer. This was Sabotage David Ayer doing this movie.
Yeah. It just that really frustrated me, because I wanted this to be a good movie. I don't take pleasure in kicking this movie around and all that stuff, but it is terrible, and I can see it, and I think to get a consensus from critics, as it were, it really does say a lot. And the one point I kind of it frustrates me about this summer, and well, maybe this will kind of open it up in a bit, that we see these people. These are extreme circumstances. They're not just average Joes, hopefully, that are saying Rotten Tomatoes are biased, the critics are against DC, which is just bizarre. But people have you'll know it probably better than me. The Rotten Tomatoes score is probably mid-20s, something like that.
Yeah, it's 26.
And people are going, how can they say that? How can they pick that? But for me, the problem, and it's the summer problem as well, is people are looking at these movies like Suicide Squad, and probably about 80% of the people that are going to see Suicide Squad, for whatever reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's personal choice, whether it's other commitments to games, lifestyles, whatever, aren't seeing many movies at the cinema. So when they see something like Suicide Squad and they compare it to probably the other movies they've seen this year, Batman v Superman, X-Men, Civil War, things like that, they probably think, yeah, this is a pretty good movie. This is very similar to some of the other ones, picks up traits here and there. Yeah, I kind of get that. And they can't understand why people like myself, for example, loathe it so much. Whereas a film critic, and I don't want to come across as a total douche or like sounding like I'm better than anyone, high on myself, but like by the time we record this, I've seen like 100 films at the cinema this year, and I would rank Suicide Squad in the low 25% of what I've seen this year. Like it would be right down at the bottom. But that's because I'm seeing a diverse range of films, whether it's German heist movies, French farces, American comedies, Richard Linklater indie movies, British, farce. I'm going to see the new Zac Efron movie tonight and I can't wait for it. Like, I see a diverse range of films, and I can look at Suicide Squad and think that's not as good as a lot of different movies, and I don't get what I'm getting out of a lot of the other movies. Whereas, people can't afford to go to the cinema as often as I can. I get that. But I think the lack of cinema choices at the cinema for people is putting them into the place where something like Suicide Squad is accepted. It's good enough, and it isn't good enough. DC fanboys, DC fans, comic book fans deserve better than that, frankly.
I think part of it, too, is because the marketing campaign was so aggressive with this movie, and it's been aggressive for a year, that I think people had made up their minds that for a year that they were going to like it no matter what. So the fact that they're seeing it, I'm willing to bet more people are disappointed than they're letting on, but they're still giving it a pass anyway because they've wanted to like it for a year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the problem that, it was the analogy I said to you the other day that I always think of, and I know what it's like. I've been there. I've been a teenage boy. Like, I'm not saying these people are all teenage boys, but it's that kind of mentality that I remember when I was like 16, 17 or whatever. Like, you go out to a club and you meet a girl, she gives you a bit of an eye, she gives you a wee kiss on the cheek, and that's it. But like, you immediately just like fall in love, like you can't believe someone's paid attention to you. And like, I can imagine for some of these hardcore DC fans, like even getting a little flicker of some of the characters you love at the larger DC universe on the big screen like you've never seen it before can be appealing and can be an experience like, wow, I'll let this fly because it's brought me so close to my childhood, to an excitement, to a Nirvana. And it's not good enough still, though. Like, yeah, you may get like a few moments here and there where it really appeals to you, and there are some good moments spread across the DCU movies, but it's still not good enough. You don't settle on this movie. You don't make this your final battlefield. You demand more from DC. You demand more competence. You demand more trust for the directors. You demand a better product. Like, I will not settle on this being good enough for a DC because I know they can do better. I believe they can do better. They just need to get a grip, I think.
They have to do better because, I mean, we could talk about our specific problems with the film, but one of the biggest problems I have is that the way that it's written and the way it's directed, I don't feel any chemistry between any of these so-called team members. None. No. And
well, they are a family by the end, remember, Matt.
I wish I can't curse, but I hate that. Anytime they tried to convince me that they were family by the end, it was so phony and so forced, and I hated every second of that.
Yeah, it's just simply not earned, as you say, and we don't want to focus too much on Suicide Squad because by the time people have heard this, like, they've already seen it. They've probably listened to about 1,000 podcasts, but like, one of the biggest moments that really stood out for me, that really annoyed me, is like, you were obviously annoyed with the family, was like the Diablo.
Oh, please tell me you're going to talk about the domestic abuser and owning it, because I have serious problems with that. I'm
disgusting.
It is revolting that we're supposed to think of that person as a hero by the end of the film.
Mm-hmm. Like, for me, I completely understand that people need to be redeemed. I've watched movies about pedophiles being redeemed. I've watched people that have committed heinous acts being redeemed. I totally buy into that. That's some of the most interesting stories come out of some of the most horrible people of being redeemed or finding some peace. But this is very different because we see a man that, take away that he uses fire to kill his family. He kills his family through anger. He can't control himself. And you know what? there must be something missing in there, because I refuse to believe that they went with him being encouraged to own that, because that is just completely unfathomable.
Granted, the line to own it comes from a person who is crazy herself, but even still, I mean, to have that line in there at all is I was done with the movie at that point.
Yeah, like, it's almost like, yeah, you need to own that to, like, you know, move forward to find your redemption. You need to own that. No, you really don't. That I get these are horrible, horrible people, but you don't tell someone to own something like that. That, yeah, we can see them doing horrible things and we can go along with it. But domestic abuse, that when we look at the statistics of how many women, you know, women's refuges, you know, even in like trans communities, all these sort of places where people are victims of domestic abuse, to see someone being told to own that is really just utterly bizarre. I don't get it.
So when he, you know, spoiler alert, makes his sacrifice at the end, I felt nothing.
No,
in fact,
I was happy to see him die.
In fact, I was going to say, in fact, I was happy to see him get killed off.
Yeah, good riddance. It was, you know, nothing, you know, as far as I was concerned, it was, you know, a good thing to do.
And again, they so wanted that, again, I hate making comparisons, but they so wanted that sacrifice to be the I am Groot moment, or we are Groot moment from Guardians, and it doesn't play.
I mean, his redemption will not be achieved through a personal sacrifice. That there really is no way back for someone in that kind of position, that you kill, you know, a wife, and on top of that, 2 young kids. It's just
because you got
really
angry.
Bizarre. Yeah, like, there's no way back for that. That you can work on a path towards redemption, but I'm not going to forgive a character within the space of 30 minutes of their crime and all that. It's a very bizarre movie, and you know, it's for moments like that that really make it the worst movie of the summer for me. For all the other ones, there are problems with the flaws, structure, repetitive plotting, but with this, it was just vile. Yeah,
it was vile, and it was loud, and it was obnoxious. I mean, Lee, was there a composer for this movie? Because I think this movie was composed by a schizophrenic jukebox.
Yeah, like the choice of music was as subtle as a mixtape I made for like a girl when I was like 16, trying to tell her I wanted to pull her. It was just atrocious. Like, there was no subtlety, and you know, take for example Guardians of the Galaxy, where that kind of inspiration has almost come from. Those songs were about capturing the feeling. With a lot of these songs, they're almost like a word for word explanation of what's going on the scene. Like, I'm crazy, I'm changing clothes, I'm driving a Lamborghini.
What it is that it's doing the lifting that the script is failing to do. It's all shorthand. The soundtrack, and when you compare it to Guardians, they were capturing moments, but they also integrated that music into Peter Quill's character. It told us things about him, and it made us understand things about him, so that when he has emotional moments like the ending, we can be with him, because we've learned who he is, and we've learned to love him through his choice and through his mother's choice of music.
Yeah, like, for me, it's just really is very poorly done, and you can tell, like, the trailer people were involved in putting those things together, because they are just like a trailer, that the music is pretty much telling you exactly what's happening on screen. And yeah, I'm just glad that this summer's behind. It's been a real fatigue for me, as I kind of touched upon a few weeks ago, and I'm so glad that I get the choice of being able to, you know, see something like Suicide Squad and then go see something a bit more well written on the side. So yeah, looking back, it's just been a frustrating summer. That 2 of the movies we spoke about in the past that I think have been the best movies this summer has been Civil War and Star Trek Beyond. And when I think about why they've succeeded and something like Suicide Squad has failed, is because they had heart, and they were about characters growing and achieving things. It wasn't about vile characters. It was about people you cared about and wanted to see succeed, and to, you know, work towards something, to be better than they were. This was just, I know they're bad guys because they told me about 60,000 times, but I can get on board with a film about bad guys, rogues and stuff, but like, this is not that movie.
No, like you said, I think the thing that the films that succeeded this summer had in common, like Civil War and Star Trek Beyond, was that not only did they focus on characters, but they had people writing them and directing them who understood those characters. I mean, when you get Simon Pegg and Justin Lin, or you get Marcus and McFeely and the Russo brothers. I know that they're in good hands because they understand how those characters work and how to endear them to an audience, even when those characters, like in Civil War, are making mistakes. Because I mean, everybody in Civil War does not emerge unscathed. They make questionable choices, and they make sometimes, under certain lights, it could be horrific choices. I mean, I'm thinking of, it's not as horrific as trying to own domestic abuse, but the fact that Steve Rogers kept the fact that he knew that his friend had murdered Tony's parents. He knew that and never said anything. That could be really, really, that has the potential to turn someone against Captain America. But I felt that it was handled in a way where you understood why he did it, even if the action itself is morally questionable. They knew how to walk that fine line.
Yeah, and it's quality writing like that certainly raised it to the top of the pile in the summer. That I'm starting to think back, and we've spoken many a time. It always makes me chuckle. You check in on Facebook, you're at the cinema, and the amount of times you've checked in at a film, and I've been like, oh, I didn't really kind of like this one. And you're like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, I liked it. So there's a kind of few films this summer that really have divided fans. So I'm going to maybe pick through a couple, and we can maybe talk about them, what maybe made them work for you, and maybe what fatigued me about them through the summer. So what about we go with Ghostbusters? That was one of the, probably makes Suicide Squad fan debates and arguments look like they're pretty tame. You really liked Ghostbusters, if I recall. I'm much less so. What worked with you for Ghostbusters, or maybe what didn't work for you?
You know what? I think that it's hard to say, Lee, because I think unlike a lot of the other things we're going to talk about, comedy is very subjective. Would you say it's the most subjective genre that there is? So what's going to work for somebody doesn't work for other people. I was never that big into Ghostbusters. I liked the first movie, and I rewatched it again, and I think it still holds up. I couldn't tell you what really worked. I kind of liked the actresses' chemistry. I thought, unlike Suicide Squad, I thought they did have a good bond. I like their senses of humor. I'm a fan of each one of their individual works, and I like the director's works in the past. And to be honest, I think it's also a time and place thing, because when I saw that movie, I was having a really crappy day, if I remember correctly. So the fact that I ended it with that, and it made me feel good, and I was able to escape and kind of laugh for 2 hours, maybe it won't hold up on a rewatch, but I just, I walked out of there with a good feeling. So I can't really put into words for you what worked for me. I just think it was a combination of all those things. It was the perfect storm for me at the right time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that can be a film some days, that sometimes you just go into the cinema having a crappy day and you think, you know what, I'm just going to surrender to whatever this movie is and I'm going to go along with it. Some days you go into the cinema feeling like a bag of rubbish, and the film reflects back at you like that, even though it could be the most great film. That, for me, Ghostbusters is another problem that really frustrated me with the summer, that the debate about it has just been poisonous. And I think both sides have played into that a lot. And it's just, it catches people like myself in the middle, where I didn't like the movie. I'm not a Ghostbusters fan. I saw the movie once as a kid. I probably watched the cartoon series a lot more. But when I went to see this movie, and I went in and I knew that I didn't like the trailers, and I'm not a fan of Melissa McCarthy. And there was a lot of it I just thought, it's not going to be for me. And I kind of sat there and I came out of it. I really didn't like it. But I felt a bit hesitant to share my thoughts of it, because there was a lot of accusations being thrown around that people that didn't like it were sexist, people that were women haters. For me, I was just a guy that just didn't find it funny. I thought it was a typical of this summer in a way. It was like, I've seen this kind of thing before, and I thought Kate McKinnon came out of it fantastically well. She's probably the big breakout. Chris Hemsworth, hysterical, but the rest totally forgettable. And it was a movie I felt I'd love to have it been successful to show that movies like women blockbusters are perfectly fine and have a future. I mean, today in the news it's come out that this movie is going to make a $40 million loss. And that's going to reflect probably on future goings for female-led blockbusters. Hopefully not, but that's what people are going to say, I think.
Right. I mean, part of that too. I mean, I'm not trying to accuse anybody of anything. I'm really not. But the campaign leading up to this movie was so toxic, and it just was. I think that had more people found it funny, because I know a good number of people that actually liked it, but I think that the chips were stacked so against it, there was no way for it to win in any case, just because the media talk was so overblown. And I mean, I liked it, but not because I was forced to like it. Just the same way that you were not forced to not like it because you're misogynist or whatever. And I'm not saying I liked it because I'm pro women, but the fallout from this movie, I kind of feel bad more than any other movie this summer that we're going to talk about that didn't work for us or whatever. I kind of feel bad for the people involved in this one because I know that their heart was in the right place, and I know that they don't deserve some of the things we were getting. I mean, Tristan and I did a show yesterday where we talked about the whole Leslie Jones on Twitter thing. That's going way beyond what people need to do. I mean, that I just felt bad. You know what I mean? Because she doesn't deserve that. She's just an actress. She took a job that she thought was fun.
Yeah, I just can't get my head around the mindset of someone that, as I say, I thought it was atrocious. There's aspects of it I liked, but for the most part it was rubbish. End of story, really. I don't need to tweet someone that it was it wasn't the fault of really the cast, the people involved. I may not have liked some of the characters, I may not like the writing, but that's not a reflection on. I'm not going to go tweet. You don't have to,
but you know what I mean. You don't have to tweet horrible, racist, misogynist things.
No, I can tweet some of my views to people that follow me, but I'm not going to actually include the person in it. And in a way, there's as I say, it's a huge negative that this could be a black mark against female-led blockbusters. But at the same time, it's hopefully this summer's been a positive in the respect that people perhaps are sick of reboots. Did we really need to see Ghostbusters 2.0? Not really. I'd rather have seen something fresh and unique take on Ghostbusters.
I think certain reboots can work, and maybe you need to pick properties that aren't so. Because I didn't realize Ghostbusters was so beloved, but apparently it is.
How much that is true, I think it's beloved by some, and I think it's a campaign to camp on for others.
But the beloved by some was so loud. You know what I mean? It was so loud. It was louder than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it just was pure toxic. People, as one side, and I'm not saying that each side is bad as the other, but I think sometimes the problem is that people can go searching for some of this toxic stuff in forums and people's tweets and holding up as examples of this is what a lot of people think.
Right.
It's still a small minority.
It is.
It's just a small minority that gets a hell of a lot of attention. It's the same in politics, that if we go out of the way to hold up every idiot in the tree, then things will look bad. And I think things like that make things more poisonous and escalate it. That sometimes we should just let people hide away in their rank forums and
right.
We know they're there. We don't need to hear everything that they think, perhaps. It's a hard one to judge because I think there is a case for the opposite of name and shame, but at the same time, it just sometimes just makes things worse, I think.
It does, and but my point was I'm not necessarily opposed to female-led reboots of things because I think any movie has the potential to be done well. And I want to give a movie made every chance because I mean, I read recently that they're actually in production to do not a reboot I think it's being sold as a spin-off of Ocean's 11 with a female cast.
Oh yes, that's right.
And I'm actually looking forward to that because I very much like Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 13. I didn't care so much for 12, but that's something that could work. I think that has potential. So I'll be excited for that. I'll go see that.
Yeah, I think it's a cracking cast as well. I'm not a big Sandra Bullock fan, so
I am. That helps me.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, I was kind of up with most of the cast, but no, I'm the same as you. I think Ocean's 11 and 13 are fantastic. 12 totally forgettable. So I'm that's a hopeful movie that hopefully that it can weather this storm, and hopefully people put the money lost down to various other factors with the film and perhaps with other things as opposed to it being the women.
The film maybe wasn't up to snuff, and let's not forget it didn't get released everywhere because China didn't get it, and it's the second biggest market these days.
Yeah.
Maybe it would not. We don't know how it would have played, but maybe it wouldn't have had as big a loss had it gotten some weeks in China. But we'll never know.
So what other films have you seen this summer, Matt? For example, that you've perhaps disliked first, and then we can maybe kind of end the show with more focusing on what we've loved this summer.
You know what I ended up really disliking, and maybe is my worst movie of the summer, although Suicide Squad kind of gave it competition. And I expected it to be bad, but I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was that frigging Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh, yes.
That was awful.
Yeah, it was total garbage. I went to see it. I got a ticket to see a double bill of it, and how I did it was like, it was kind of a bit convoluted. I went to see Independence Day in IMAX at midnight as opposed to the second part of the double bill where Independence Day Resurgence would be in just box standard 3D. So I got my ticket for the double bill, watched Independence Day 1, normal 2D. What a buzz that was to see on the big screen. Like, when I was like 10, I was too young to see Independence Day at the time, and that summer I was so gutted to miss out on it. I've always just grown up with it on VHS, DVD. I've never seen it on a big screen, and it was such a treat to see it again on the big screen. And like, I think there's so much to admire in it. The fact that there's actually barely any action, it's mostly about the characters, and Jeff Goldblum's brilliant in it. And like, well, the trailers were pretty poor. I was kind of going into the film thinking, I think it's going to be fun. I think I'm going to find plenty to enjoy, or even enjoy ironically about it. But I went into the IMAX, and there was only like 10 people there for midnight, and half of that were people I knew, which is a bad sign, because even at the worst of times, the IMAX is usually 3/4 full for a midnight release, and like all of us at the end were kind of like, oh. Like, I think the film's got a good idea at the beginning about the use of alien technologies to advance the human race. And just, like, everything in that film is just terrible. Like, I love Charlotte Gainsbourg. I hope she's not
What was she
listening
even
to this.
doing in that film?
God knows. It was her first ever Hollywood movie that she starred in, and she picked a really bad stinker to appear in that. It's just, I don't even know where to start with that movie. It was just a total mess. It was too much CGI. It didn't get what made the original so successful. It was really completely unnecessary. It brought nothing new to the party either.
I'm watching the movie and I'm like, Jeff Goldblum, I love you, but why did you choose this, and why aren't you in Jurassic World 2 or whatever that's going to be?
I know, it was just a total bummer. Like, I thought it was going to be a movie that I thought, despite the trailers, I'm going to enjoy, but it was just, what a waste of time. Like, I can't believe they bothered.
Generic comes. It felt like a 90s blockbuster trying to be in 2016, and that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, too much CGI. It was just weird. There was nothing memorable about it. Like, the only thing memorable was Brent Spiner, and that's probably because I'm a Star Trek fan. Like, outside of that, there was nothing. It was, with some of the cast, Mika Monroe, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Jeff Goldblum, I had some great hopes for it, but a letdown, really, frankly.
Mm-hmm. So that was probably my biggest failure personally of the summer. Also, too, I mean, I think that was probably the worst thing I saw. I did, because a podcast I listened to was reviewing it. I did check out the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out.
I haven't seen that one.
That was a kind of a great big nothing of a film. I kind of, the way you felt about X-Men Apocalypse is kind of the way I feel about TMNT 2. It just was nothing.
Yeah. So talking of X-Men Apocalypse, that was one that kind of somewhat divided us. What was your thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse?
I didn't hate it. I know it's I'm fully aware that it's the weakest of the new trilogy, but I can't, when I compare it to something like Last Stand or Origins Wolverine, like, I just can't say that it was like, I never want to see it again. It was so atrocious. I just can't stand it. I wish it was more ambitious than it was. I wish that we could have kept up the good vibe from Days of Future Past, but I mean, I will own it because I hate having a hole in my collection. You know what I mean? I'm a completist, and I'll watch it again, and I'll sit with it fine. But I didn't hate it. I didn't absolutely just want to, cut myself after watching it for 2 hours.
Yeah, like it was a movie I really didn't like at all. Like all the trailers were never convinced me, and then when I went to see it, it was just worse than I thought. Like, it's not offensively awful, it's just really, really boring. That it's a waste of such great talent, whether it's whether it's Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Oscar Isaacs. It's really, really bad. Like, I loved the First Class and Days of Future Past. I thought they were just incredible movies. And the idea of Apocalypse being teased at Days of Future Past got me really curious about this one. But from kind of day one, it was just something that wasn't so selling to me at all. And I'm a fan. And, to see it come out of it as bored as I was just so frustrating. It was just soulless CGI mess that I refuse to believe it, but I can't ignore it, that it looks like people like Bryan Singer, Fassbender, everyone just phoned it in. They just couldn't be bothered. I don't know, I don't think anyone wanted to be there. I mean, apart from the Evan Peters, I genuinely looked at the screen and I thought, no one wants to be involved in this project. It's a total chore. I've seen me put more effort into doing the dishes on a Sunday afternoon.
That's the thing.
This.
That's the thing. I think the returning actors maybe didn't want to be. Aside from McAvoy, I did feel some passion from him, but I really liked the new cast. So it was like I if this continues, I would like this to continue, and I'd like to see those new actors who came in this movie get another chance, because I think they have potential, unlike so many other films.
Yeah, I'm struggling to, apart from the redhead, I can't remember almost anything about this new cast, and that's just a bit frustrating for me.
See, I can't agree with that, because I felt like for the first time, not only did they give Cyclops something to do, but he was actually charismatic. So,
yeah, I can't remember. I still can't. I just can't. Maybe it's been a few months and things like that, but it's kind of slipped my mind. But I just don't remember anything about him being fun, or any of them being fun, really, apart from Quicksilver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, put it to you this way: I'm gonna watch Apocalypse again before I ever watch Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad again.
I don't know about that. I don't think I'm never gonna watch Suicide Squad again, and I'm never going to watch X-Men Apocalypse again. I might watch Batman v Superman because it's got some Batman in it, or to kind of...
Because you hate yourself.
Yeah, I hate myself, and I kind of... I watched the extended cut, and the idea that it completely changed it into an amazing movie was total nonsense.
I was gonna ask you, because I'm never gonna watch the extended cut, but please tell me that this nonsense about this being a magically a good film all of a sudden.
No, it's total spin. Well, the plot is marginally improved. There's a bit more Superman in it, but there's next to nothing in it that fixes the tonal problems, the acting problems,
and it still has Martha in it, so that's not fixed.
I mean, I personally don't mind the Martha thing. I think it's quite inventive. I don't think the execution is that great. Yeah, I genuinely think it's. I remember seeing it in the cinema thinking, that's okay. I can go along with that idea. It's a bit original. It's a bit of a change. I think it's executed pretty poorly, and I think it is right for parody. But I don't think it's that part of the film is as bad as people are saying. I mean, perhaps compared to some of the awful in that film, it kind of gets a free pass. But yeah, the extended cut does very little to add anything to anything, really. It's just some plot points put back in. It's got a bonus Jenna Malone, which I like. I'm a Jenna Malone fan.
Yeah, but isn't she barely in it?
Yeah, she's barely in it, but it's enough to probably put up half a star for me. But yeah, the summer started with Batman v Superman, and it very rarely peaked beyond that. For me, some of the other movies that I really didn't enjoy this summer, before we get onto a bit of more hopeful, was kind of looking back at my list here. Batman v Superman, really didn't like at all. People are going to crucify me here. Jungle Book, I went into this film with everyone raving, oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, I was kind of bored. I thought some of it was quite nice, visually interesting, some nice voice work, but
I loved it. But Jungle Book with the animated movie was such a part of my childhood that I felt it really captured the spirit of it. So
yeah. Just wasn't for me. Warcraft, the beginning, loved Duncan Jones. One of the first movies I've ever genuinely thought about walking out on in years. I went to the toilet at one point and debated not going back to the cinema, but I felt loyal enough to him to sit through this movie.
Didn't bother with that one.
Yeah, pretty garbage. Alice Through the Looking Glass.
No way was I going to see it. Why did you see that?
I took a group of special needs kids along, so I got good karma, but God, it was awful. It was until Suicide Squad, it was one of the worst things I saw this summer.
Right there with Independence, a sequel no one asked for.
Yeah, like people, I think they mistook the money the first one made for just like kind of going high on the 3D ticket sales that people wanted to see this movie. It was just awful.
No one wanted to see it. The reason it made that much money, I've said in the past, is because that was the first 3D movie post Avatar, and we were still riding that high.
Correct. It was just garbage. Central Intelligence. I like The Rock. There's some funny bits, but again,
Kevin Hart is getting way too overplayed. No, I pass.
Yeah. The BFG. Oh, one of Spielberg's worst movies by some distance. I was out the other day and someone went to me, "Oh, did you like the BFG?" And I went, "You know what? It was a load of rubbish, really. I thought there was too much use of CGI. There should have been more practical effects." And do you know what they turned around and said? "Oh, my boyfriend here, he actually did some of the CGI work on BFG." And I was like, oh no. And I was like, I'm so sorry. But I was just like, it's not your fault. But I felt there was too much reliance on CGI. And they should have done more on like practical things on set. Like the play is something I saw when I was a kid here. I loved the book. I was a huge Roald Dahl fan as a kid.
So Spielberg's worst film by far. Have you seen 1941?
Yeah, but BFG was just like, I expect better of him. I genuinely think he can do better than this, like for family movies. I think Bridge of Spies last year was like a fantastic movie. I really liked that. With this, it was just, I think I fell asleep for about 5 minutes at one point. The only part I really liked was he's having dinner with the Queen. I thought that was kind of relatively funny. But aside from that, there was nothing about it that I enjoyed, and I just thought there was very little fun and enjoyment to be had.
Right.
And then finally, Jason Bourne. My fear that it was just going to be a retread of the first three movies proved to be the case, as Jason Bourne is, in a European country, is hunted down by a European assassin and goes on the run with a woman, and there's an evil white man in CIA that's out to get him, but someone knows the truth about his past, and what will it reveal? I've seen this movie 3 times already. I love Paul Greengrass, United 93, Captain Phillips, Sunday Bloody Sunday are amazing movies, and I'll always check out something he's done, but that was just a waste of my time.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I did, the first time when I saw it initially, I was like, that wasn't as bad as people were saying, but now, like 2 weeks later, I can barely remember anything about it, so it's like, whatever.
Yeah. So what about you, Matt? What films have you genuinely enjoyed this summer that have raised a smile? Some film that's maybe been a counter-programming, released on the same day as a big movie. What have you enjoyed?
Well, I did mention, I did like Ghostbusters, but that's neither here nor there. I was okay with X-Men Apocalypse. I didn't hate it. I really, I give passes to them all the time, but I genuinely did enjoy Finding Dory. I know it's not as good as the first one, but I
haven't seen that one yet.
It brought a smile to my face. Made me feel nostalgic because I loved the first one so much. What I ended up really seeing that I ended up really enjoying was a little counter-programming movie that ended up doing very well, and that was The Shallows. I really loved
that. Only came out yesterday here in the UK. I'm going to go see that this weekend, I think.
Let me not, because I don't want to oversell you on it. I just kind of liked it. It was very minimalist. I thought Blake Lively did a very good job. I could feel the struggle that she was going through, and I like a good shark. It's been a long time since we had a good shark movie, and I'm not saying that this is Jaws or anything, but it was genuinely enjoyable, and it so quick, 80 minutes, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So that was, as far as counter programming goes, that was probably my biggest recommendation of the summer was The Shallows.
Excellent. I'm off to reel off a list here because I love my counter programming. For me, some of the best films that have come out over the summer, say end of March to April, some of them we have spoke about on this show before. Eye in the Sky, we spoke about that on our top films of the year. Green Room, Anton Yelchin will
really need to see it.
Yeah,
looking forward.
Anton
to it.
Yelchin will be remembered for being Chekhov, but this movie was probably one of his finest hours. It's just so tense, so uncomfortable. It's subversive. It really is a kind of indie classic.
Let's not go without mentioning I love you, Lee, but you love some pretentious arty films, and
we haven't even started on this list.
Your movie of the summer, if I'm not mistaken, is Neon Demon, which. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my top movies of the summer. Some of these are not as pretentious. Evolution is very pretentious, a French movie about young kids that are kept on this island with these mysterious women who are performing operations on them, including attaching fetuses to them, and bizarre things are going on that are... I'm still reflecting on what that movie was about. Everybody Wants Some, we spoke about on earlier in the year. What Whiskey Tango Foxtrot was surprisingly really good.
I just saw that on because it finally came on demand programming here, and I finally saw it, and I was like, I don't know if that deserved the reviews it got. It was quite good. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself. I thought it was really quite good. Once again, Scottish people don't talk like that. I'm a Celtic fan. I don't talk like Martin Freeman in his Scottish twang. Sing Street came out on the same day as X-Men Apocalypse, one of the best films of the year. By the time this podcast comes out, there should be a blog up on the site about some of my thoughts on that film. A truly beautiful film.
So are you going to rub some salt in Tristan's wounds and mention High Rise?
High Rise is lucky for Tristan, that came out in March, so that would be up there. Mustang, the Turkish movie about women that are kept at home and schooled to be future wives, I thought is definitely in my top movies of the year. Absolutely powerful. The Nice Guys, Ryan Gosling. I'm gay for Gosling.
I forgot about that. That was pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, so funny. Shane Black does buddy movies better than no one. The documentary Wiener, all about Anthony Weiner as he runs for mayor of New York, potentially one of the funniest things I've seen this year. If you're into your politics and you want to escape from everything that you're seeing on CNN just now, watch this documentary. It's like a real life version of The Office. Elvis Nixon, Kevin Spacey playing Nixon, always good for those House of Card fans. Subara, an Italian movie that has all the epicness of Batman v Superman about an Italian mobs and actually knows how to manage characters and plots. The Neon Demon, I've droned on endlessly about how incredible the Neon Demon is, and yeah, that's definitely some of my favourite counter programming of the summer. So to kind of wrap it up, Matt, like looking back on the summer, where do you think it's gone right and wrong? Where do you think next year has to go to make sure that a summer like 2016, with all these big budget movies really failing to set the box office alight in America, that obviously things like Netflix and heat waves can all play a part in movies not making as much money? Where do you think next year needs to go, and what do you think the main lesson of 2016 has been?
Don't put a bunch of sequels that nobody wanted or asked for in the same summer, because it's going to skew the box office to make it look like it's bad. I mean, seriously, that's one of the things I noticed about this summer, is that, there were a few things I absolutely wanted to see, like Civil War, like Beyond, like, I'll even put Apocalypse in there because I wanted to see that, and I thought that was a sequel that deserved to be made, even if it wasn't up to snuff. But, I mean, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Independence Day Resurgence. I mean, all these things that no one wanted or asked for, and people are surprised that they're not working. So, I mean, looking at 2017, I don't think it's going to have that problem. At least that problem. Because you got, Fast and Furious 8, you're going to get Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You'll potentially have that problem because I don't think anyone's asking for Pirates 5. But,
there's someone out there.
But I think that problem will not be present next year. And I mean, people compare it to last year. Last year we had a bunch of sequels everybody wanted. You remember? It was, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Jurassic World, Furious 7. Of course, this year's going to look lackluster compared to last year. But I think that for the blockbusters that are made, just focus on characters, focus on a good story, because we're not just going to accept anything anymore based on face value. And I think that the people who make good blockbusters understand that.
For me, my main takeout is, we spoke about it kind of a few weeks ago when me, you, and Tristan had that cracking chat together. Like, I think the problem now when I look back is it now that we go into these movies where everything's all about that first date, that opening weekend, that so much money is going on to creating a big box office buzz. Before, it used to be that a movie would open and not everyone would get to see it in the first week, but the fans would be there, and word of mouth would spread, whether it was a Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, whether it was Star Wars back in the day, whether it was Jaws, all these different movies. And then if they had a few weeks to stay up in the top sections of the box office. Now there's so much going into the box office, whether Star Trek Beyond has got to pack so much money into the first weekend that it's got to prepare for the 60% drop off the next week, that Suicide Squad has to nail beyond belief an opening weekend to stand any chance of getting its money back, because next week the following next big movie comes out and that all the money is going into there. That in a way that we need less movies, we need more quality of what's going to come out and just more focus on letting them breathe a little bit. Just now it's suffocating. People have only got enough money to maybe see a couple movies or one movie a month, and that money is all going into one movie's opening weekend, and before you know it, the movie's gone and classed as a dud if it's not made 400 million in 1 week. That the time for making movies money isn't going to be there at the cinema anymore, and that's the frustrating thing. It's all about that opening weekend, and if you don't succeed in that opening weekend, if you're not getting the buzz, you're struggling to make the money. And that's why things like perhaps Ghostbusters, Star Trek, all these different movies that have come up short with their box office total, it's not an indication perhaps always of the quality, but it is an indication that there's a flaw in the system.
Well, yeah, everybody's cannibalizing each other with subsequent releases, and that's something that I don't think is going to get better right away, but at least we can hope for the quality of things next year, because, I mean, even looking at the summer next year, I'm looking forward to Guardians 2. I'm looking forward to, for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to a new Spider-Man movie. I'm looking forward to one that I think we forget that is coming out next year, but certainly the promotion is going to start up soon, the next Planet of the Apes movie. I think that'll make a good, interesting sci-fi program, counter-programming. I mean, I think there are things to look forward to next year that I think that this year is probably going to be more of an anomaly. I'm hoping.
Let's hope so. And who knows what we'll be discussing next summer. Hopefully it's not another Requiem for summer 2016 like we're having with this one. It's we don't want to be moaning and complaining and bitching about things, but hopefully next summer puts back smiles on people's faces and gets people in the box offices and happy.
I choose to look at it this way, Lee. Even though Apocalypse maybe didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, all the movies that I was looking forward to this summer all turned out well. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it may be a loss overall in terms of quality, but in terms of the ones that I was looking forward to, I thought this summer was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek Beyond and Civil War aside, it's just been stinker after stinker for me, and I'm glad there's been counter programming to keep me happy. That even though I've had a terrible time with the blockbusters, I've had a hell of a great time with my pretentious indie pals with our cravats and French berets.
But you see what I'm saying? Like Civil War and Star Trek Beyond were like my top two most anticipated this summer, and it's win and win. So like I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hopefully we have a good run to the end of the year now, and things like Doctor Strange, I'm not particularly hyped for that, delivers,
I think
we go into next year with a good skip in our step, and hoping for the best.
And actually what I'm looking forward to, and actually I think the trailer's supposed to come out later today, is Rogue One. I hope Rogue One delivers. I really do.
Well, some of us saw the trailer at Star Wars Celebration, so you've only had to wait 3 weeks after me to get it with the rest of the riffraff.
But I mean, so there were things to be disappointed by in summer, but there were things that I liked about it too. So
exactly,
good discussion.
Sometimes that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, good discussion here. I like how we can end on something positive always. So, if you want to talk to us about what you liked or disliked during the summer season in 2016, you can reach us both personally on Twitter. I am at mhanson0207.
You can get me at Lee_Nostromo. You can contact us all on our Facebook page, Facebook/The Nerd Party. You can find us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party, because why would you not want to? You can listen to Tristan and the Girls' reflection on the summer on Nerd Nuptial. You can hear you and Tristan on the Senate floor talking about various films and issues over the summer on the Senate floor, and you can hear John and Matt talking about Star Wars, and that's still one of the big movies to come this year. So I'm sure they'll have some Rogue One chit chat here and there in the build up to the winter.
So thank you for joining us for our special summer 2016 retrospective here on the Filibuster. And until next time, let's go into Oscar and winter blockbuster season 2016.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.